Okay, so you want to learn how to attach soles to the bottom of your Spider-Man suit. No problem, I got you covered. Here's what you're going to need. The first thing you're going to need is some E6000 or some other really good adhesive like contact cement or something. Another good adhesive is like this Gorilla Glue construction adhesive. Like I said, any decent adhesive will work. Next, you're gonna want some super glue. I prefer Loctite. Specifically, you're gonna want something that's a gel. You don't necessarily need it, but it's great for some like finishing touches and things, particularly the edges of your boot. You're also going to need a box cutter, one that is really, really sharp. So yeah, I have a few of these laying around my house, but yeah, get yourself a nice sharp box cutter. So the next thing you may want, but you don't necessarily need, that isn't currently up here, is either some white FLEXseal or some red Plasti Dip. It really is just going to depend on whether or not you want colored soles. If you want to do your soles in a specific color, you're going to want the white FLEXseal. But if you don't really care, you can just use the red Plasti Dip or like a black FLEXseal or just whatever, or none of them. It's just completely up to you. I'm going to do these soles a certain color, so I want the white FLEXseal, and then I'm going to use a spray paint to color the soles. So again, it's really up to you. But this here is all you actually need to complete this project. So again, completely up to you. Another thing you might want is like some Tafwa shoes, or these are temple shoes, Muslim temple shoes. They use them for their Tafwa dance. You may want these. You can wear these on the inside of your shoes to or the boots of your suit to give it shape. And it's also really handy for helping to attach soles easier. That way you don't have to necessarily wear your suit while you're attaching the soles. It's really up to you. It'll turn, like I said, your boots essentially into installed shoes if you want to do this. Although it is a bit of a whole other process if you want it to be permanent and such. For me, I'm just going to use it as assistance. So one thing I wanted to note real quick before I got started is that if you're just installing soles to your shoe or your boot, you are going to want to be sure that you size down. So I'm normally a size 10 and a half in men's, but if I'm installing soles to my suits, I size down to about a size 6 in women's. The reason for this is there's a lot of padding that you're going to basically be removing from these things. And so if you don't size down and you just use like your shoe as you normally would, you're going to have a lot of extra space on the inside and it's just not going to look quite right. Now, it's not an exact science, but the way to figure out the size of the sole is to basically just hold the sole, the bottom of it, up to your foot and see if your foot fits within the curvature of the sole. And if it does, then it should fit. Again, it's not an exact science, but this is sort of the best method that I found for doing this because, like I said, if you don't do this, you'll end up with a ton of extra space on the inside if you're not going to wear a temple shoe on the inside of it to mitigate that extra space that you'll be having. So yeah, like I said, it's not an exact science. It's gonna vary depending on the sole type of the shoe, but again, if you don't do this, I guarantee you will end up with extra space more than likely on the inside of your shoe. You can use it with men's shoes, whatever. Just again, you're gonna want to hold the sole up to your bare foot and make sure that it fits within the curvature of it. So yeah, just wanted to note that because it is really important. Okay, step 2, we're prepping the shoes. So what you're going to want to do is remove the laces, obviously, and as well as the insole. It's going to be easier to remove the insole on a cheaper pair of shoes. But yeah, you're going to want to remove these as carefully as possible so that you have them to put back into your shoe. It's not 100% necessary. I mean, if you wreck the insoles ripping them out, so be it. But you're going to appreciate it if you are able to salvage them. Again, depending on your shoe and how you sized everything, you won't be able to wear an insole, but if you sized everything right, you'll be able to reutilize the insole on the inside. And again, you're going to appreciate it, and it's just going to help make the job of gluing the bottom of your boot to the sole that much easier, because there's going to be some, there's going to be a shape that lines up with the bottom. So, yeah, try to save that. All right, so step 3, you're going to take your box cutter and you're going to cut around your sole. Get rid of all this excess fat. And voila, you have a pair of soles. Just make sure when you're doing this that you're being very, very careful. Make sure your blade is sharp, and just, slow and steady wins the race. I really try to target, right where the sole meets the fabric, and that works for me. So on to the next one. All right, so step 4 is to test fit. Get your insole, if you still have it, in the bottom of your shoe, and then just line her up and see that it all fits right. My foot hangs off a little bit. Like I said, it's not an exact science, so this portion's important. But it fits comfortably enough that this will work just fine. And as you saw, even though I sized down to a size 6, that insole is almost perfectly lined up with my foot. So yeah, just test fit. If you are not going to color your soles, there will be a time code for you. You can just skip ahead straight to the gluing portion of the video. But if you are going to color them like I am, then stick around. We're on to that next. All right, so now you are going to FLEXseal your soles. Like I said, you only really need to do this if you want to color them a specific color. You want to FLEXseal them white, and then within 24 to 48 hours before it finishes curing, you're going to want to use whatever colored spray paint you want, and go over it. Like I said, I try to do it within that 24 to 48 hour window before it cures, because that seems to work for me, and it will keep them from cracking when they are bent. I've tested it a couple times now, and it's worked every time so far. So, all right, if you're not going to do this colored sole, or you just want to use red Plasti Dip or black FLEXseal, do whatever you want. Like I said, this is just specifically if you want colored soles. All right, so moving on to our final step here. As you can see, I have my Temple shoes stuffed into my boot, and they do hang over a little bit, but it'll be all right. Also, you can see at the top I have a bit of excess fabric there because of how the suit is sewn. So I'm just going to take my Loctite, and I will basically just glue over that edge, and then I will stuff it onto the underside, if that makes sense, to take care of that. Depending on your soles, you won't run into this issue because your soles will have more of an edge, like a lip to them, or like more of an edge around them. So you won't have to do this step. All right, and so here's what a finished shoe will look like. As you can see, that edge is now gone. I have folded it under. And so, yeah, I'm just going to leave this now for 24 hours and just let it cure. So yeah, if you do it like this, like I said, once you got it all situated and everything, just leave it for 24 hours. You could put something heavy on it if you want, but just don't futz with it or it won't bond properly. There's another method in which you can like wear the shoe while the glue is setting, which is fine, but once it starts to set, just leave it for 24 hours and don't mess with it. All right. Also, really quick, before I show you step by step how to do this, if you are doing the method that Vanilla Cosplay uses, where you are just wearing your suit to glue the sole to the bottom of it, make sure you have an insole and make sure you are wearing like a sock or something, If you don't have an insole, like say you destroyed it in the process, but you still want to do the method of you actually wearing your suit while the glue is curing, wrap it in some like saran wrap or like clear wrap so the glue doesn't, your suit doesn't end up also being glued to the bottom of your foot. So yeah. Also, if you want this done quick and dirty, you can use Gorilla Hot Glue, and it'll glue almost, instantaneously, and you can take it off and let it finish curing. The Gorilla Hot Glue works pretty well, but it is probably going to come up around the edges. But overall, it will hold if you want to do that method. That's maybe a little bit safer than, just be careful when you're doing it that way. So yeah, just thought of it, wanted to give you guys a heads up. Okay, so step 1 of the final step is to, make sure you have your insole in there and line it up right with the bottom of the foot pattern. And then, get your shoe stuffed with bubble wrap or paper or whatever you want. And then we're going to take care of this edge here. Now, if you have print costume, just sew the boot of your shoe in the right shape in the pattern, how the pattern shows it. You won't have this little blip to deal with. The reason you get this sort of blip is because they sew their foots at an angle, and so then it creates this little weird access. But again, if you have them sew it how every pattern shows it should be sewn, which is as a proper rounded boot, you won't have this issue. Or again, like I was kind of saying before, if your soles have more of a lip to them, like a more of an edge, when you glue this down, you won't see that. You'll be able to just press it against the edge and it'll just disappear. So yeah, just that's all there is to it. So like I said, get your insole in there if you have it, and then stuff your foot with, or the foot of your suit with the bubble wrap to create the shape of the foot. And so yeah, this is essentially what it'll look like. As you can see, it's just folded over and glued into place. And yeah, almost looks like it was never there in the first place. Now you just go to town putting that E6000 down there on the shoe. I like to kind of just lay it out like lines and then a little bit, and then all you gotta do is just line your shoe up, make sure the insole is meeting that bottom sole, and there you go. Just press it down a bit and bye-bye. So after it's been 24 hours, you take out your bubble wrap or your shoe insert and just take a look at your handiwork. Check around the edges here to see if they're sticking up, and make sure that this is taut. Some of my edges are a little loose, which I mean is really fine, as long as you really got that inside here glued down tight. The edges are fine if they're not, flush or whatever. But you can just take some Loctite, which is what I like to do, and then just go around those missed edges, and that should do just fine. But it's up to you. That's just what I like to do. But you can use the E6000 again if you want and really seal in those edges. I've just found that the Loctite will work just fine. So once that's all done and everything, we move on to our technical final step, which is one more test fit to make sure that these things hold up once you get like a real foot inside them and start kind of moving around a bit. Yeah, you're probably going to pop some edges, with time, but that's all right. You can just go back in and clean them up and fix them as time goes on. So yeah, on to the final step, I guess. So here I am test fitting these, as you can see, just making sure that they hold up to a foot being inside. This is also where you can see where like the glue didn't cure properly. Again, that's my fault because there just wasn't a lot of pressure applied. It happens. But yeah, so you can just examine and see where it didn't connect, mainly around the edges here, or just where there wasn't enough weight left on there. So yeah, I'll just be going in and cleaning up those edges with some Loctite to make sure they're really stuck on there. But again, probably not necessary, but completely up to you how much finishing work you want to put in. But yeah, that's all there is to it, guys. And that's it, guys. That is how you attach soles to the bottom of your Spider-Man suit or any superhero suit. Obviously, mileage may vary a little bit. There is a level of like unpredictability to doing this sort of thing. It's really going to depend on your choice of sole, and then if you are going to be wearing an inner shoe, like I said, like a sort of a tawaf or really anything else that adds structure. If you're going to wear like a temple shoe or any sort of shoe, again, that's going to add structure on the inside, then you are not going to want to scale down the sole of your shoe. Or if you are, you're not going to want to scale it down as much. You may have noticed in some of the clips as I was putting this thing together, my temple shoe hung out about this big because the temple shoe is sort of the size of like my actual foot, so to speak. A little bit bigger. It just had, I don't know. So therefore it doesn't fit completely flush. So I couldn't wear a temple shoe on the inside of the shoe to add stability, which I didn't plan on doing anyways. Because again, it would have been just a little bit too big for this particular sole. So again, your mileage is going to vary a little bit depending on the sole that you're using. Like I said, something that has like a thicker sort of edge to it is going to be a lot easier to work with and is going to work a lot better with one of those sort of inner shoes. Sort of any sole is going to look better with one of those inner shoes. It's gonna look more kind of like the comic books. But that process is a little bit different, especially if you want that inner shoe to be connected with the rest of it. And it ends up being a lot more expensive to go that route versus, say, just installing a Kung Fu shoe, which I'll do a video about later, about how to just install a Kung Fu shoe. It's a lot simpler for the most part. And I would argue it's maybe easier, but yeah, they're different processes. It'll be more expensive because you're buying a whole shoe, so that's going to run you up to like $30. So at that point, you might be better off just paying print costume to do an installed shoe. It's not actually any cheaper to do it yourself because of the materials and everything. The advantage to doing it yourself is that you can have a better quality inner shoe, and you can do it when you're ready to do it, so it saves you kind of money in that regard. You can get your suit ahead of time and then wait to install the shoe yourself versus saving up more money to have somebody else do it. Like I said, I've said this before in the past, I'm not a big fan of the print costume Kung Fu shoes. So even though technically it doesn't save me any money to do it myself, at this point I kind of prefer doing it myself because I can put nicer shoes in them. Anyways, that's for another time. But yeah, that's how you do this. Like I said, your mileage will vary. These turned out pretty good. The only area that I'm a little miffed about is this connecting point here. If I had done an inner shoe and I had scaled the sole properly, this would be more flush. But you live and you learn. Like I said, it's all a learning process, and sometimes some of your soles are going to turn out better than others. It's just the way that it is. It's pretty nice and seamless, especially like once I get my foot in there and everything. Like I said, there's no room really. I could wear an inner shoe, but it'll probably hang off then. So it's just going to be my actual foot. But since that's how I always intended to do it with this suit, I'm not too upset about it. Like I said, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Flexibility's okay on it. Doesn't appear to be any paint cracking. Like I said, if you do that FLEXseal method, you shouldn't get any paint cracking. Or if you get some, it should be pretty minimum. These soles don't have a lot of bend to them anyways, so that's probably also a factor on how long the color is going to last in your sole. For these ones, I wouldn't be surprised if I do end up seeing some cracking on them, but I did another pair that are more flexible that have had zero paint cracking, and I've bent them a couple times. But you know, like I said, it's live and learn. The more you do it, the better you get at it. Hopefully this video is helpful for you guys who've never done it before and are sort of looking to get started. Like I said, this is a great option, and you can save yourself money doing this versus having print costume do it. It'll likely look better if you do it, to be honest with you. It's pretty hard to screw up. There's a lot of tutorials out there other than mine, some that are probably frankly a lot better than mine. But yeah, it can save you money and it will look better. I had print costume do the soles on my Hammond/Toei suit, and I regretted it because it didn't really turn out that good. They just didn't line them up very good, and it just looks wonky. So yeah, like I said, hopefully this video is helpful for you guys who are looking to do this. And yeah, I will be putting out, like I said, a video about how to do installed shoes. Like I said, the process is really no more difficult than this. There's just some factors you have to factor in when you're doing that versus this. So yeah, maybe start with this. If you can manage this and you're comfortable with this, then maybe move up to just installing your own shoes completely. Or if you just like having a different look. Some people prefer the look of having soles on the bottom versus the seamless look. So, you know, again, you know, different strokes for different blokes. So yeah, that's going to be it for this tutorial. Like I said, I hope you guys found it helpful. If you want to see more tutorials, you can check them out on the channel. I'll put a little card here or at the end of the video. Like I said, I'll be doing more tutorials on other suit things in the future. So if you're interested, maybe hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon just so you don't miss it, or just come back when you're ready. And yeah, that's gonna be it for me, guys. Be careful out there. I don't know how. This is always the hardest part of the video, just like end it. Maybe we do a Sopranos thing and I just cut off mid